Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go through my entire flip process on this 2008 GMC Acadia. I'm going to go start to finish, why I got it for so cheap, what I paid for it, all the repairs I'm doing, how I clean it up, what I put into it, and what I sell it for profit. So make sure to stick around and find out. My name is Jeremy, this is Region Automotive, and let's get to work. One last thing before we get started. I kindly ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. It simply takes 10 seconds for the viewer, and it really does keep me motivated to continue making videos and get this information out there to you guys. All right, let's do a quick walk around of the vehicle here while I tell you about it. So yeah, like I said, 2008 GMC Acadia is actually one of my mom's coworkers that reached out to me, and they gave this to me for like a steal of a price. They sold it to me for $700, 700 Canadian dollars. So that's like $4 American dollars. Yeah, so I guess let's just go through the cosmetics a little bit. So I don't know, someone decided it was a great idea to paint every trim piece on this car, plasti dip every trim piece on this car black. And I mean, it looks okay when it's fresh, but it's all peeling. So I'm going to try to repaint that stuff, kind of clean it up. A little rust spot here, nothing crazy. It's kind of surface, maybe it's penetrating the metal a little bit, but I'm not even going to touch that. That's pretty good for Western Canada here. And then, yeah, so again, all the trim's black. This looks like crap. So I actually ended up going to a junkyard and I got all the small little pieces I need. So I got a whole new panel here. Walking around, the body's fairly straight. A little bit of paint peeling there, nothing crazy. Tires are in okay shape. But yeah, overall the body's pretty straight. A little scrape there, I might clean that up. And then, yeah, the headlights are foggy, so I'm gonna polish those. Let's go on the inside. One thing I really liked about this guy, oh, that's another thing I'm gonna fix, is that clicking door. It's a common problem. I'll show you how I fix that. One thing that I liked about this guy is fairly loaded. It's the step down from the Denali, so it has leather seats, heated, all the steering wheel controls, backup parking assist, just nice trim. And again, overall everything's like pretty clean and straight. It has a power lift gate too. Let's see if that wants to work. Gotta love that 2000s, just slow and clanky power lift gate. But anyway, that all works. Actually, I'll leave that open because I need those rams. But yeah, I'll show you the main reason why I got it for so cheap. This is the main repair. So it starts right up, which is good, but you can already hear the power steering pump whining. And when I turn it, it's really hard and it grinds. And yeah, you can just hear that power steering system whining. So the main issue with this car is the power steering rack is just puking fluid out of the side. And then obviously the system's low, there's air in the system, so that's why the whole system's whining. It's just not working right. So yeah, I got a power steering rack. Let's jump into that. Definitely not looking forward to doing the job because I have to like jack the whole car up. And then for this one, you have to lower the subframe and it's just gonna be crawling on my back on the ground, busting my knuckles. And I'll show you what makes this job even worse. I literally have a brand new 2-post lift sitting here ready to be installed, but I'll show you the problem why I can't install it quite yet. I share this shop with my grandpa, who's 75 years old, a farmer and a hoarder. So my plan is I want to set up this lift in this corner here, and then I want to clean all this crap out and set up all my tools and stuff. But like, as you can see, that's going to take weeks and months of work. So I'm not willing to wait till I get that lift to set up to do the rack. So I get to pull it in, put it on jack stands, and do it on my back. Okay, now we have this sucker up on jack stands ready to work on. I checked online and there's a handful of DIY videos on how to do the power steering rack, so I'm not going to be so detailed on it. I'm just going to set up a nice little montage of me showing me work on this thing. And if you're watching this and you have any questions or DIY or whatever it is, feel free to comment below, and I can let you know like my technique. If there's any questions you have on lowering the subframe or taking the rack out or whatever, just let me know below. feel like that's my signature sound every time I get a pain in the you-know-what part out. It's hot out too. Gotta drink my water. Anyway, I got the old rack out there. And yeah, you can just see, I pulled the boot off on the one side. You can just see all the fluid pooling out. Like, that thing was just puking fluid. So, glad that I got the new rack. And also appears to be the right number because there's like, or right rack because there's like 3 or 4 different options. This one had the, what was it, the variable effort steering or whatever, because it's the more loaded one. And then I had 2 options as well, like one with the electric orifice, one without. I'm pretty sure that's that motor that's on the side there. Maybe that's for the variable effort. I don't know. But anyway, I pretty much got the most expensive rack you could for this thing. That was, I don't know, about $300-400. Again, later in the video, I'll add up my costs and let you know the exact cost. So in the meantime, time lapse done, and I'm gonna slap this rack back in, and then I'll talk to you once we got her running. All right, peeps, some stuff has happened since we last left off on this thing. I replaced the power steering rack and everything was all nice and happy and we're good and simple repair and let's move on. So I start bleeding the system and it's still leaking. So I'm like, what the... I don't know if I could swear. I'm gonna swear. So I was like, what the f is going on? It's still leaking. And like the new rack looked like it had fluid on it. And I've had an issue before with remanufactured power steering pump on that brown Honda Civic I had. I think I had some timing chain shorts on that thing. But anyway, I had an issue with a remanufactured power steering thing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I put in a remanufactured power steering rack. It's leaking. I'm going to have to take it out, do all that work again, take it, exchange it, put it back in. So I was frustrated. So anyway, that's at the end of the day. I decided to call it a day. I came back the next morning when I was a little bit more fresh and try to assess where the leak was coming from. And I looked and it was actually coming above the power steering rack. So I noticed like right at the crimp fitting on the high pressure power steering line is leaking from there and is leaking down onto the rack. So it makes me wonder if the old rack had to been replaced in the first place, but it's good preventative maintenance. So I still don't regret doing it. And that's kind of what I was told when I bought the car. So it's good to just do the rack and the line. But I'll show you this is the old power steering line. Yeah, it's leaking right out of that seam right there. I like put a rag under it just to confirm that's exactly where it's coming from and is leaking from there. So I replaced the power steering line, which ended up taking me as much time as the power... Moving dust in the bin there scared me. I thought there's a mouse or something. Anyway, I replaced the power steering line. That took me as much time as the rack. That was a royal pain in the ass. And then I was having issues with the feed line going into the power steering pump. That wasn't sealing properly, so I had to mess around with a bunch of O-rings, bunch of bolts, finally get that right. Bled the system. And then while I was bleeding the system, I forgot, actually this is when I was working on the rack, I forgot that I had the steering linkage disconnected. So I was like turning the wheel back and forth to bleed it. I'm like, oh, it's so smooth. And it like bounced off the clock spring because again, there's nothing attached. So of course I broke the clock spring and the airbag light came on. So I had to throw a new clock spring in and then the airbag light went off. I bled everything. There's no leak. So we're all good. And then I was getting my stability and traction control light on. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I thought I was going to have to, wrap up this video and just send this thing to the auction. I was getting so frustrated. But again, I called it a day. Would highly recommend that if you're getting frustrated on a project, call it a day. Go relax. Go hang out with your wife, your kids, whatever. Eat a good meal. Have a good sleep. Come back the next day, which is what I did today. And I read the code and I was having a steering wheel angle code. Then I found a video online and all I needed to do was calibrate the steering wheel position. So on my scanner there is reading like negative 358 degrees or something. And then I reset it and went to 0 and then all the lights flashed and then it went off. And now the power steering job is done finally. So now we have that job done. I can go back to repairing the small things just to kind of make this thing more presentable. So the first thing I'm going to do, yeah, you can hear that there, that click. So it's really common. Let me get that flasher off. So it's really common, if you can see there, that top bushing is broken. So like when you open and close the door, it just clicks and obviously doesn't sound good. So I was able to get one from the junkyard, and it seems like a common problem because most of these front door bushings were broken. So a tip for you guys is, I'll confirm in a sec here, but the rear door, or not bushing, sorry. Well, it is bushing in the hinge, but I checked, I believe the rear door hinge fits the front. So if you have the same issue, go to the junkyard, all the bushings are broken, so you can get one from the rear. And like I said, I'll confirm that in a sec here. All right, I got that door hinge working and nice and smooth now. And then I had to align the door so it closes nicely, no noises. And then I just quickly replaced this driver power seat switch because it was working in forward and is kind of sticking going backwards, but that's working all good now. And then last piece I have to replace for now is this rear valence piece. Looked like crap, so I ended up getting a cleaner one from the junkyard. Just give me one sec, I'll grab that. So there's a new one I got from the junkyard. Obviously much better and cleaner looking versus that. So now I'm going to change that out. All right, I got that new rear valence on. That's looking pretty good. So next on our list is to recharge the AC. And the reason why I know it needs to be recharged is because when I press the AC button, it blinks. Apparently that's GM's way of telling you that it's low on AC. So I'm going to recharge it. I got one of these cheapy kits from the parts store. It's the first time using one of these, actually. I'm curious to see how it works. And of course, in typical GMC Acadia fashion, this is not the recharge port. This must be for high pressure. So, you know, instead of this simple port on top, apparently it's down below, like underneath the compressor or something. So I'm going to drive the car up on ramps and recharge that. And then while I'm under there, another thing I was going to do is an oil change because the oil looks pretty dirty and the oil change light is on. So I'm going to put some fresh oil in it and then reset that light. I'm a believer now that can of refrigerant actually works surprisingly well. And the AC port wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be. It's just right there, like up top here. I could just reach down and put the hose on it. It really wasn't that bad. Maybe the videos I was watching, they're on the newer Acadia, so maybe they moved the line. But like that access line actually wasn't too bad. Then I ran the car, ran the AC, seems to be cold enough, so I'm calling that fixed. So next on the list, I'm going to change the oil. Now that we have the oil change out of the way, the last repair on our list before I take it for the wheel alignment, and then I'm going to start detailing it as well, is the front struts. I noticed when I was driving it, the front end was a little bouncy. It was kind of making a clunking, rattling noise. And then when I crawled under it, I'll show you once I get the old ones out, but you could see the old struts like just had fluid all over the strut body there. So I picked these guys up used. Reason being why I went used over new is because new were quite expensive. They're like $300-400. Then I picked these up used for $120. They seem to be in decent shape. They're not leaking. I checked the top strut mount, so I'm pretty confident that this will improve our ride. As per usual, that was a lot harder than it needed to be. As you saw in the video, that bolt was just absolutely seized and a pain in the you-know-what to get out, but finally got it out, and now I have some techniques for the other side if it fights me, but figured I'd show you the old strut and the new to me strut side by side. You can just see how bad the old one is compared to the new one. You see like all the fluid, or like the dirt sticks to the fluid on the boot there. The boot's torn at the top. Again, all the fluid around the shock body, it's all rusty. So, and that's all clean compared to that. So I'm pretty confident these new to me shocks will improve the ride. So I took it for a drive after replacing the front struts, and it definitely drives a lot smoother. So that was a good little repair there. I called the alignment shop. I have that booked in, so I'm going to get that done tomorrow because my steering wheel is slightly off, which is expected after replacing the whole steering rack and the tie rods. Yeah, so now I think that's all the repairs I wanted to do this thing. So now we're on to the fun stuff, which is detailing. So I'll get you set up, and let's set up a cool little detailing montage here. All right, now that I have the outside nice and clean, there's a few things I want to address on the exterior before we move to the interior. The first thing is I want to polish these headlights. They're pretty hazy. You can kind of see difference in layers or clear coat or discoloration or whatever you want to call that. So I'm going to tape them up, and then I'm going to hit them with 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, just kind of play around and see what the good combination is, and then I'll polish them. I would say that turned out pretty good if I don't say so myself. Yeah, let's do the before and after. So before, yellowing, looks old, bad, faded, terrible. After, looks brand new. So one of our last exterior bits on this thing before we move on to the interior, I want to clean up these door handles. Like I said earlier, someone plasti dipped them black and they just look like you know what. So I found, actually, surprisingly, I was able to scrape it, kind of get some of the plasti dip to scrape off there. And if I do it gently enough and just kind of just push the plasti dip off without digging into the chrome too much, it didn't scratch it up too bad. So I scraped, or I'll show you on the driver's side, I scraped all the black plasti dip off, and then I used a SOS pad, just, or wool, whatever you want to call it, just those blue SOS pads. And then, yeah, I was able to like polish it and actually get a pretty good chrome on there. And then another thing, I tried scraping them off the door trim there. That really wasn't coming off easily. I didn't want to spend the time, so I just quickly taped it up and threw a layer of paint over it to kind of refresh the black and make it look good. So yeah, I'm going to paint all the trim, peel off the plasti dip on the passenger side, and then we'll move on to our next and our last exterior item. All right, that definitely cleaned up the look of this thing. Yeah, look at those nice shiny chrome handles, and then the trim painted black, and it's consistent. It actually kind of looks like that new, I've seen the newer trains, I think, or the Acadia's trains, where they had like the black package or whatever. That actually looks like proper and clean, like it was meant to be, not, you know, that clear coat just peeling off with some chrome showing some clear coat. So yeah, it's looking good, nice and clean. And then for my last party trick, I guess that'd be party trick, detailing party trick on the exterior here. There's a bit of a scrape, like a paint scrape from parking lot post or whatever. So what I'm going to do is hit it, I'm going to do a wet sand with 2000 grit sandpaper, and then I have a cutting compound, and that'll pretty much make that scratch disappear. I decided to do one more pass with this polish. Okay, that definitely turned out better. You can see a little bit of like where the paint was actually damaged or dents or whatever, but like, yeah, where the paint transfer from the barrier or whatever was hit, that got wet sanded and polished out. Like that looks pretty darn good considering how it looked before. So the last step I'm going to do before I take photos and list it is clean the inside. I'm not going to show too much. It's just a quick back, and I'm sure you guys have seen that 100 times. And then just a quick reminder as well, don't forget to clean all your door jambs and stuff when you're detailing, because it's always an eyesore when you open the doors. And then I will show you one last party trick before we go take photos. All right, now I got her cleaned up. My last little party trick on the inside before or after I'm done detailing, I like to give it a couple spritz of Febreze, just to kind of make it smell fresh when I have some showings. One last thing before I list this for sale. When I take photos, I try to find like kind of like a neutral background. Like I'm just in a school parking lot here, so I kind of have the trees and the nice building in the background. And I'll insert a couple photos. I try to have like, I'll take a nice photo of like the front corner of the car and make sure your photo's level and the whole car fills out the photo and like you don't have any stuff in the background. Again, I'll insert a couple photos of like examples of how I like to show it. And yeah, so I guess we'll do just a quick walk around. Everything's nice and clean, smelling good. One thing that I did forget is tire shine, so it's not a bad idea to do that. But other than that, the car is looking nice and clean and ready to sell. I think I'm going to list it for $5,900. I'm hoping to get somewhere around $5,000. We'll see what happens, but I'll keep you guys posted once it sells, and then we'll go over all my expenses in the vehicle and then what I sold it for and what the profit was. All right, guys, I finally sold the SUV, so let's talk about it. I had it listed for about 4 or 5 days, and yeah, some guy came and took a look at it. I had it listed for $5,900. Originally, we settled on $5,000, and then he came to look at the car a second time, and he noticed that the windshield needed to be done, which is true, and then the tires were also wearing, and those would have to be done as well. So he knocked me down to $4,800, which I was still happy with once we go over the numbers here. So first, I'll go through all the numbers, all my expenses, and then we'll calculate the total profit. So initially, I bought the vehicle, like I said in the video, for $700. And then I went to the junkyard and I got parts like that rear valance, the door hinge, what was it, that sliding switch for the driver's seat there. So just miscellaneous junkyard parts I installed, that was $52. The steering part, so that was like the steering rack, the high pressure hose, fluid, that was $565. The clock spring that I broke while I was installing the steering rack, so that was another $20 at the junkyard. I got those good condition used struts for $120. That AC recharge kit, and then I also bought oil and a filter. That was $94. I took it to get an alignment after, again, like I said earlier in the video, like after doing all the steering, taking the whole rack out and replacing the struts and all that stuff, I wanted to get a fresh alignment for it. So that was $136. And then the vehicle was sitting for a while, and I noticed some of the modules like weren't communicating right, and I swapped the battery in for my grandpa's truck, and all the issues went away. So I determined that it needed a new battery. So I bought one of those. That was $105. So my total expenses in this project was $1,792. So we'll just round it up for easy math. And then, like I said earlier, I sold it for $4,800. So $4,800 subtract my $1,800 of expenses. That's a profit of $3,000, which is not too bad for that one. I'll say, they don't always go like that. Like I kind of got lucky, or I don't know, I guess just being in the realm of cars. This deal came to me. I don't have to go online to find it. So that was definitely a good buy to begin with. But with that being said, it's not impossible to go out and find those deals. So, like I always search classifieds. I'm looking now. With that being said, actually stay tuned because I'm I'm rolling it over. I'm going to buy another car, and I'm going to go through the whole process again. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'm a huge proponent of buying and selling vehicles if you do it properly, and you buy it good, and then you go through it and fix all the small things and just make it better for the next person, and you get paid for your time. So yeah, I'm a big proponent. So if you guys have any questions, the usual, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any questions, let me know down below. If not, have a good day.